Ordered.
All opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senator Clifton is recognized on Senate.
Decrease over FY81, Mr. President.
And it's reduced their FD limit to 700.
Bill, Senate Bill 63. Questions, Senator Kilpatrick. Kilpatrick is passed on Senate Bill 63. Is there a second?
Actually, two things could cause it. One would be if we do not get the congressional redistricting task accomplished during this regular session. It may be that we won't want to come back in and do that and address that question in a special session. Another would be if the Reagan budget cuts were to become known to us sometime during the interim, and if certain projects that we are presently having to fund or would get cut off, and if we wanted to come back in and to address those issues, or that could conceivably cause us to come back in at a special session. But it's too early at this time really to know if that is even a very great possibility.
Give me a cue. Alice Lipscomb runs an apartment complex on Oklahoma City's northwest side. She says many of her elderly residents are suffering because of the present water situation.
It's worse for them. They can't bathe, they can't use the commode, they can't cook, they can't even brush their teeth. And it is bad when it comes to the elderly people. They must have water. They can live with food, little out of food for a few days, but not water.
Hal Smith is one of those residents who's been without water for more than 30 hours. He says it's the longest his tap has been dry in the past 73 years. Now, Smith is luckier than many northwest Oklahoma City residents. He's still got a jug of bottled water in his refrigerator. But he hasn't had a bath or a shave in the past day and a half. So when his tap begins running again, there's no doubt about the first thing he'll do.
Take a bath. Yeah, that's a fact. Gee, that's the way the weather's been, sticky. There isn't anything more that you'd like to do than just get under a shower.
Smith says the present water situation isn't fit for man nor beast, and his dog Rags agrees. Scott Wallace, Action 4, Northwest Oklahoma City.
Gunther Gable Williams. This is what he's like behind the scenes. Always busy. Just after being around him for a short time, you can sense his high energy level. Even though Williams is a superstar in the circus, he still gets involved when it comes to caring for all of the animals in his circus act. Williams has made numerous television appearances. In fact, he's been on NBC's Tonight Show 5 times. Williams says it's extremely difficult getting animals to perform before the TV cameras.
See, our animals is never trained really to do something on television or movie stuff. You find a lot of animals, like in California, trained for action, something like this. And our animals is only trained for the show inside and make an act together, meet everybody together. And it's very tough. Take something out and let's go to Johnny and do something there. And people expect all the time I do something. Well, many animals come on in a show but never do something. That's always very, very difficult for me.
It won't be difficult for the animals tonight. They should be in perfect form at the Myriad. Williams' 10-year-old son and 18-year-old daughter will assist their father in his world-renowned act. Ed McCain, Action 4, the Myriad.
The union that represents civilian employees at Tinker Field says the base is allowing dangerous chemicals to be mishandled. The union claims several spills and leaks earlier this week endangered employees here. Headquarters for the union challenging Tinker are across the street from the base, the American Federation of Government Employees. Across the street from Holloway lists 4 chemical mishaps on base between Monday and Wednesday of this week. He says the most serious took place on Tuesday. An independent tank truck driver was cleaning chemicals out of a vat when a gaseous cloud escaped. All 13 Tinker workers near the cloud were checked out at the base hospital.
We have called on Tinker to give those people complete physicals. Apparently they got just a preliminary check. They asked people what their symptoms were. They didn't report any. They gave 1 employee an aspirin and sent all 13 back to work. No one knows how serious the hazard is until they run tests to see if chemicals are present in their body.
Now, is this a matter of extreme safety for the workers, or is this just a matter of their being comfortable at work?
It's not a matter of comfort. It's a matter of long-term health effects.
Holloway claims chemicals are being stored unsafely in Building 16. Tinker authorities say that's just not the case. The building was evacuated Wednesday when leaking chemical barrels were found. But Tinker officials say that's standard procedure, and no one involved in this incident or the tanker incident was injured.
It's nothing major. In a major industrial environment like this, you frequently have chemical spills, which I understand the bioenvironmental protection people monitor all the time and have safety precautions. And the first thing, of course, is safety for the worker. That's the first item of business. And these things happen periodically, and of course things are done to take care of them.
Holloway showed up on base unexpectedly this morning to check out Building 16. As a union leader, he still maintains chemical safety needs to be tightened. Tinker counters that with a clean bill of health from government inspectors given out just 3 weeks ago. At this point, it's safe to say neither side is too happy with the other. Larry Audis, Action 4, Tinker Field.
Get that in the yellow back there. I'll be honest with your stomach in. You look bad on TV.
5 o'clock, we'll try to make it.
Camera.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, you could be on.
Yeah.
When we started out with this merger with the Frisco and the Burlington Northern, they said we wouldn't lose any jobs. They would only be taken by attrition. It would be on a 5-year plan. Well, it's only been into effect 6 months. And on the Burlington system, we've already, in my craft, one specific craft, we've lost 700 and some jobs. And this is only 6 months, so we're going to lose more people. And everybody is, every craft, and that's why we're out here. We're trying to stop this. They agreed to this, and our organization agreed to it. And we're trying to make them live up to what they agreed to.
Negotiators from Oklahoma City are just 1.5% away from an agreement with the Fraternal Order of Police. That's the difference in the city's offer and the FOP's demands. But the police say they had to draw the line somewhere, so they are turning the contract over to a federal mediator.
We've been in negotiations since May the 7th, being July the 1st, almost 60 days of negotiations. We got reasonably close together. Both sides reached a critical point on where they could give no more ground. after going back, getting a vote from the officers, which it would turn it down over 9.5 to 1 to the city's last best offer, we had one more meeting. The city stated that was their final and best offer. We had no choice but go to impasse and call for a federal mediator at that point.
A city negotiator contacted by phone tonight says he's confident the mediator will rule in the city's favor. However, police will probably have to wait 60 days for his decision, and when that decision is made, it will be binding on the FOP, but not the city. It's possible the city will reject the mediator's decision, and that could lead the police to, well, it's still a long way off. Ted Brown, Action 4.
Those men and women of our great nation who believe in the equality or equal dignity of all, and provides a new analysis of how ERA will affect the Commission on Civil Rights in Washington, D.C. That ERA is part of a long history of equal rights. It's a long history. It's been 60 years, as we stated earlier. The U.S. Commission on Civil Rights is the fact-finding and the organization for the federal government and for the country which monitors all civil rights activities. ERA is a part of those activities. We're getting down to the 1 year for the extension of it, and we have been working, the Commission has been working since 1973 to see that ERA is passed. And we feel that the time is coming very close where we have to get it passed.
When it comes to July 4th, parades are just as American as apple pie. And in Edmond, they've been pretty American for a long time. They're proud of their parades there. Parades have always been a good way to celebrate. They aren't new, but then neither is patriotism. Everyone likes parades. They have no age barriers because everyone has something to celebrate. The past, the present, and the future, and how they are all tied together into America.
Just celebrations like this make it special. All the people getting together and enjoying a parade. You don't do that much anywhere on earth, except in America.
Yes, very happy. Wouldn't be anyplace else.
Everything's looking up, economy's going down, it's great.
Is this the kind of place that you want to be raising a little boy in?
Sure is. I was raised in this town. I remember my dad used to bring this little parade. It was great. And I'm bringing my son to this parade, and it's been fun. Yes! I love it.
Thank you.
I think it's great. Oh, dear.
Why?
Why? Because I live here.
Happy 4th of July. Hi.
Charles Schnitzer, Action 4 in Edmond.
Here's Uncle Sam waving the flag.
I'm sorry that I cannot identify this group.
The studies that I draw on do say that there's no level of exposure to radiation that is safe. Everybody exposed to radiation has health damage. That's what the leading scientists are saying now. This is totally different from Kerr McGee's perspective. They say that you can be exposed to yellow cake, and yellow cake is even more radioactive than the mill tailings. And yet we know that people have died from being exposed to the mill tailings and to the ore in the mines and to the radon gas in the mines. So there's no question that this yellow cake itself is killing people.
The United States has a special relationship with Indians and with Indian.
I will send to the Senate the nomination of Judge Sandra Day O'Connor of Arizona Court of Appeals for confirmation as an Associate Justice of the United States Supreme Court. She is truly a person for all seasons.
51-year-old Judge O'Connor says she's thrilled by the nomination.
I will do my best to serve the court and this nation in a manner that will bring credit to the President, to my family, and to all the people of this great nation.
The nomination news was also applauded by Oklahoma City's first female judge. Terry Pindell has been sitting on the Oklahoma City Municipal Court bench for 5.5 years.
My immediate reaction is that I think it's just great. I think it's a super deal. She's obviously a competent, qualified jurist, be able to do a credible job, and the fact that the President's taken such a courageous stand in appointing or nominating a woman for the position is a great step for all women.
But not all Oklahomans are happy with the President's announcement. At least one statewide group says it opposes O'Connor's nomination, not because of her sex, but because of her past stance on abortion issues.
There's certainly a clear indication from her voting record, prior voting record, which way the vote would go in regard to a question on abortion from Sandra Connor's standpoint.
And which way would that go?
I would think she would vote on the side of pro-abortion.
McHugh says his group will contact both of Oklahoma's senators in an effort to get O'Connor's nomination blocked. Scott Wallace, Action 4.
It was necessary to come to court because there was no other remedy that we could see available to us. Of course, there had been no other remedy at the city level since the city clerk had determined that the petitions were insufficient and had refused to certify them. So the next thing to do then was to ask the court to determine, in effect, that he had not found them incorrect on any legitimate basis, and to force him to do it, as well as to enforce these people's rights.
Why would someone want to burn down the Executive Health Club? City arson experts are trying to answer that question tonight. They've already questioned the health club's owner and employees to determine if anyone had a grudge against the club. So far, they haven't come up with any firm leads. Another question: what would have happened if firefighters had arrived on the scene just a few minutes later?
Had it burned the way that it was intended to, when our firefighters made entry, broke down the door to get in there and fight the fire, the oxygen that would be supplied from the small area could have caused what the firefighters call a backdraft, which is essentially an explosion involving that flammable vapor. And enough was brought in to burn in this case for us to have a major fire of a magnitude that we're not familiar with here in the city.
Here are some other unanswered questions. How did the arsonist smuggle more than 10 jerry cans like this one filled with a flammable liquid inside this locked mall? Perhaps the most important question is, what have hotel and mall officials done to make sure that the guests would be safe in case a really bad blaze ever did break out in this building? Well, we tried to get that question answered for you today, but hotel and mall officials refuse to comment on their fire safety precautions. However, a fire department spokesman did say that the building does conform to the city's fire codes. Scott Wallace, Action 4, downtown Oklahoma City.
Fire officials are still amazed the Sheraton City Center is standing today after fighting a huge arson fire. The hundreds of guests can still smell the smoke once entering the lobby area. Authorities do have some leads on 3 suspects. Witnesses say the 3 men ran to this viaduct about a half a city block away from the hotel, where a 1978 blue Ford van was waiting for them. They're described as a black male and 2 olive-skinned males, all between 5'7" and 5 feet 10 inches tall. They were all wearing blue jumpsuits at the time. Beyond that, investigators don't have any idea of who the suspects are. The Executive Health Club front doors were boarded up, and owner Bruce Yasmus could not be reached. Inside, the destruction was still there. 50 gallons of flammable liquids poured over everything and set afire. The arson squad is looking for motives, and one that is being looked at closely is insurance fraud. Action 4 was told the health club is in debt and has serious financial problems.
We routinely, in a business fire, do check financial records. How many times has the business changed hands? What kind of insurance coverage did they have? Was it overinsured and the like? And there is some early indication in this particular fire that the health club was not doing well. The business was poor, and of course sometimes that can be a motive for arson to try to recoup losses. We're not prepared to say that that was in fact what happened, but it certainly is a possibility and one that our investigators will be pursuing.
An engineering company next door to the health club is trying to get the smell of smoke out of its offices. Although the fire never did reach the firm, it, like other businesses, did not escape without some troubles, says owner Bob Hunt.
And we've suffered extensive damage, both with water and smoke, and the frustrations of cleaning it up and the expense of trying to conduct business without having an awful lot of assistance.
Besides putting up with the smoke smell, business goes on as usual at the Century Center. Business owners are giving second thought to having an automatic sprinkler system installed, even though it is not required. Fire officials are asking anyone with information on this fire to call them at 232-7766. Ed Stewart, Action 4 in downtown Oklahoma City.
Goes right behind it. We've had several incidences, a couple of drownings that were nothing in the world but fences that are in violation of the code.
This has been McCain at the City County Health Department. This morning, 14 registered sanitarians from the department were called together to make a crash effort of inspecting swimming pools. There are only 2 full-time pool inspectors, and that's why officials at the health department felt this crash effort was necessary to keep the 850 public and municipal pools in line.
When you get 8 to 10 pounds difference.
Safety equipment, proper fencing, and cleanliness will be checked. These sanitarians will have the power to close a pool on the spot if violations are discovered.
The thing that's precipitated this is that we've had 2 swimming pool deaths so far summer, and we don't have enough people to do the routine inspections on the frequency we'd like to, so we mobilized a number of our people from other areas, pulling them off other programs to put more emphasis on this program.
Dr. Ward says there is a personnel shortage because of lack of funding. Ward says the amount of tax money going to the health department just hasn't kept up with inflation, and that's why a number of jobs have been cut. Ben McCain, Action 4. Lake Hefner, like most of the lakes in the Oklahoma City area, is reasonably full. In fact, an official with the Oklahoma City Water Department says the water supply is in good condition, mainly because of the pattern of rains this summer. But Tom Carpenter, the superintendent of treatment with the Water Department, says the city is prepared for a shortage.
We look at historical data, compare what we've had the previous year and the type of problems that we encounter. We have also, in anticipation of a possible drought, passed an ordinance that would provide the city manager with authority to ration water so that we could control the situation.
Carpenter says because of the frequency of rains, the watering of lawns hasn't been as heavy as last year. If we do experience a water shortage, Carpenter says what the city needs most of all is citizen cooperation. Ben McCain, Action 4.
This is Dick Richardson's home in northwest Oklahoma City near Lake Hefner. And today is the first full day at home since being released from the hospital. We talked with Mrs. Richardson. She says the commissioner is resting and would not be available for comment for at least a couple of days. The commissioner is resting at home after yesterday's release from the Baptist Medical Center. He was admitted July the 9th with chest pains. His poor health has kept him away from the county courthouse and the District 3 warehouse. The commissioner's men are still at work, and the commissioner himself has not resigned his post. However, he has filed a physician's affidavit. It says he is physically and mentally incompetent to stand trial for allegedly taking kickbacks on county materials. Right there's the rub. If Richardson is not fit to stand trial, then he may not be fit to do his job. Sometime next week, a doctor will examine the commissioner and decide whether his health is satisfactory.
If they find that he's incompetent to hold office, I will contact his attorney and request his resignation. If he refuses to resign, then I would immediately file a petition in the district court requesting that his seat be declared vacant. The petition that he filed asked the court to either continue the case or dismiss it upon the grounds that he's incompetent, and set forth the fact that he'd been taking some drugs which altered his thinking processes. Since that time, there have been some articles that indicate that maybe he has repudiated that position.